Another man's wife walked into my kitchen, unfolded a medical PDF, and read every line out loud. My wife said it was food poisoning, but the lab numbers, dates, and clinical notes told a colder, far more deliberate story. What would you do if another man's wife looked you dead in the eye and said, "Your wife isn't sick. She's been with my husband"? That sentence cracked my entire world open. My wife stumbled home that night claiming food poisoning. Shaky voice, pale face, acting like her stomach was tearing her apart. But the real blow didn't come from her lies. It came from Claire, her lover's wife, standing in my kitchen with a folded PDF in her hand. Before I could say a word, she opened it, and every line she read ripped my marriage apart piece by piece. Before Claire ever stepped into my kitchen with that damn piece of paper, my whole life was built around one simple idea. A man should have a safe home. Ours was a 2-story place out in Riverside. Nothing fancy 2-car garage, weathered fence, backyard where the grass always seemed a week overdue. I used to pull into that driveway after a long shift and feel my shoulders finally drop. I'd look at that house and think, all right, whatever else is going wrong, at least I got this right. I've busted my ass for years to put a roof over our heads. Early mornings, late calls, crawling around in freezing mud, fixing water mains, doing everything I could, so the lights stayed on inside our home and inside our marriage. I really believed we were a team, that while I handled the grind, Melissa handled the heart, that we were pulling in the same direction. Most nights I'd catch my reflection in the bathroom mirror before bed, and as long as I could look myself in the eye, I felt like I was doing okay as a man. Maybe that's why when the first little signs showed up, I was so damn quick to explain them away. The cracks didn't start with test results or strangers reading PDFs in my kitchen. They started with little phrases I told myself not to worry about. Girls' night became a regular thing. At first it was once in a while, then every other week. Then it was the only time I get to unwind. On top of that, there was the new project at her office. Deadlines, late meetings, the kind of vague work that doesn't say much but asks you to just trust it. Every time my stomach twisted, I'd tell myself, don't be insecure, she deserves a life, don't be that guy. Our dog, Ranger, started waiting by the door on those nights. Ears perked every time headlights passed the window. I'd sit there with him, pretending I was just watching TV, but both of us were listening for the sound of her keys. 9:30, 10, midnight nothing. I remember one night I muted the game and just sat there in the quiet, feeling this low, dull ache in my chest. Something felt off. I didn't have proof, but for the first time I let myself whisper it in my head. What if this isn't just in your imagination? After that, it wasn't just the late nights, it was the phone. It used to live face up on the coffee table, buzzing with group chats, sales, dumb memes she'd shove in my face, nothing to hide. Then one day, it was always face down, screen dark, pulled a little closer to her hand. She'd get a text, glance down, and this quick little smile would slip out. I'd ask, what's so funny? The smile died on impact. Nothing. Just work. If I walked into the room, she'd suddenly need the bathroom. If I sat next to her, she'd get up to switch the laundry. Same house, same couch, but somehow I was on the outside of her life. I kept telling myself, trust is everything, Cameron. Don't be that jealous, controlling husband. So I kept my mouth shut. One night, though, I walked past the kitchen and saw her phone light up on the counter. On the lock screen, a man's name and the words, last night. Before I could even blink, her thumb flew over the glass. Notification cleared like it had never been there. She didn't know I saw, but that tiny swipe hit harder than a slap. A few weeks later, everything snapped. It was 1:30 in the morning when the front door finally creaked open. Ranger's ears went up before I even moved. The deadbolt turned like someone was fighting with it. Melissa came in sideways, hair messy, makeup tired, one heel on, the other hooked in her fingers. Her keys slipped, metal cracking against the floor before she caught them. Her face wasn't, I ate something bad, pale. It was wrong light, wrong place, pale. You okay? I asked. She didn't look at me, just dropped onto the couch like her bones were gone. Bad sushi, she mumbled. I'm sick. My stomach's killing me. She dragged a blanket over herself. curled up, started breathing loud and heavy like she was acting out pain. No, sorry I'm late. No, my phone died. Just a weak story and a wall where her eyes should have been. I stood there, every real question burning my throat. Where were you? Who were you really with? Why does this feel so wrong? But I swallowed it all, let her pretend to be sick on my couch. And for the first time in my own house, I felt completely alone. The next morning, she looked worse, but not in the way you'd expect from bad sushi. Her eyes were swollen, but there was no fever flush, no clammy skin. It was the kind of swelling you get from crying alone in a car, head on the steering wheel, trying to pull yourself together before you walk inside. She moved around the kitchen like a ghost, dumped coffee grounds all over the counter, missed the filter by a mile, didn't even notice the mess. Her phone buzzed on the table and she jumped like somebody popped a gun behind her. Hand shot out. Screen flipped face down so fast it almost slipped. I watched her for a second, then asked quietly, "You sure it's just food poisoning?" She didn't look up, didn't smile, didn't throw back a joke like she used to. Just shrugged, eyes glued to the coffee maker. "Yeah, must have been something I ate," she mumbled. Right then, I felt it, a cold line running straight down my spine. This wasn't about her stomach. My body knew it before my brain would admit it. Something else was rotting, and it wasn't the food. I went to work because that's what men do, right? You show up, you punch in, you keep the machine moving even when your head's not screwed on straight. My body sat at my desk, answered emails, nodded through a safety briefing, signed off on a couple of work orders. But my mind never left that kitchen. I kept seeing her swollen eyes, the coffee grounds scattered like dirt across the counter, the way her hand flew for that phone like it was life support. Every time my screen went dark, I saw that moment again and again. It ate at me. Not loud, not dramatic, just this steady gnawing in my chest. Around 3 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from Melissa. "Still feel awful. Going to urgent care. They'll run some tests. I'll let you know. Don't worry." Urgent care. That word hit something deep. Most husbands would read that and think, "Hope she's okay?" Me. For the first time, I realized I wasn't scared of her being sick. I was scared of what the tests might prove. Not about her health, about her truth. That night, after the urgent care text, she said she was exhausted. Went to bed early, didn't want dinner, didn't want to talk. I let a little time pass, then walked down the hallway. The bedroom door was half open, just enough to see inside. Melissa was in bed, turned slightly away from me. The room was dark, but the phone in her hand lit her face up in cold blue. I couldn't see the screen directly, but I could see it in the mirror across from the bed. Tiny reflections of her life I apparently wasn't part of. I watched her open a thread, scroll, pause, then start deleting. Message after message. Archive. Clear. Gone. Every few seconds she'd tilt the phone away like even the reflection might betray her. I stood there, quiet in the hallway, heart thudding, feeling less like a husband and more like a stranger watching someone cover their tracks at a crime scene. In that mirror, I didn't just see her screen. I saw my own face, tired, confused, done. Right there in that dim hallway, one thought finally rose above all the noise. Enough. Stop lying to yourself, Cameron. Whatever this was, it wasn't nothing. The next day at lunch, it happened. I was at my desk, half focused on a spreadsheet, when my phone buzzed. Almost at the same time, my work email pinged on the monitor. Family inbox, subject line, test results, confidential. My stomach dropped for a second. I just stared at it. I could have closed the laptop, pretended I never saw it, but that enough from the night before was still ringing in my head. I clicked. A PDF opened. White background, black letters, cold and clinical. At first it was all numbers and terms that meant nothing to me. Reference ranges, markers, abbreviations. My eyes skimmed down the page, barely tracking the words until they hit the middle. 2 lines. Plain, simple English. Melissa's name. And then, positive for something you don't get from bad food or stress at work. Something you only get one way through intimate contact. My whole body went still. I didn't slam the desk, didn't curse, didn't call her. I just sat there staring at those 2 lines until all the excuses, all the "maybe you're overthinking," burned away. There it was, in black and white. I wasn't crazy. I'd been cheated on. I always thought if I ever found out my wife was cheating, I'd explode. I didn't. I just sat there in that cheap office chair, staring at 2 lines on a screen that rewrote 12 years of my life. No yelling, no fists, just silence. It didn't feel like anger. It felt like someone had unplugged something inside me. I read the result again. Same word, same truth. Positive. Not food poisoning, not stress. A choice. And in that quiet, I realized the part that hurt the most wasn't the cheating. It was the lying. Lying is a decision you make every time you open your mouth. I didn't text her, didn't call, didn't ask why. I just sat there and let the truth settle in a place where excuses couldn't reach anymore. Once the shock settled into that cold place inside me, my brain did what brains do. It started connecting dots. I thought about the new project team at her office, the late nights, the sudden, "we're all so close now" stories about people I'd never met. One name kept coming up more than the others: Dominic. Smart guy going through a rough patch at home. His wife doesn't get him. Melissa always sounded just a little too defensive when she talked about him. I remember joking once, "Careful, sounds like office work husband material." She snapped back fast, sharper than the joke deserved. "Not everything is cheating, Cameron. Don't be weird." That reaction had stuck with me. It slid into place now, right next to the test results. Late nights, face-down phone, deleted messages, defensive tone anytime I said the word boundaries. The more I lined up the timelines in my head, the more they clicked together like crooked teeth. If Dominic was the guy, then there was someone else out there living a life like mine, holding a ring like mine, who deserved to know just as much as I did. His wife. I didn't know her name yet, but I knew one thing. If my world had just been blown apart by the truth, hers probably had too. She just didn't have the paperwork in her inbox yet. Once I put Dominic's name to the puzzle, the next piece was his wife. I dug through old company party emails Melissa had forwarded me. There it was, in some dumb holiday photo caption. Dominic and Claire Novak. I typed Claire Novak into Facebook, LinkedIn, every place I could think of. Didn't take long, her profile picture showed her, him, and 2 kids in front of a fireplace. That image hit harder than the test result. My hands were steady when I opened a new email in the family inbox. "Hi, Claire. You don't know me. I'm Cameron, Melissa's husband. I believe our spouses are involved with each other. I'm attaching the medical results I just received for my wife. I'm sorry you have to see this, but you deserve to know." I stared at the PDF attachment, that cold little icon holding the truth. My mouse hovered over send for one long second. One beat where I could have backed out, pretended I never knew. Then I clicked. 5 minutes later, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't know. "This is Claire. I got your email. I need to see you tonight. We picked Ridgewood Coffee over in Fairmont. Neutral ground. Public enough. Quiet enough." I got there early and parked 2 blocks away. Sat in the truck with the engine off, watching strangers live their normal little Thursdays. Couples walking dogs, college kids with laptops, a dad buckling his kid into a car seat. All of them going back to homes they still trusted. I used to have that a safe home I believed in. Now I felt like I was orbiting my own life from the outside. My hands were wrapped so tight around the steering wheel my knuckles went white, but they still shook. I checked the time twice, then finally forced myself out of the truck. The bell over the cafe door chimed when I walked in. Warm light, low chatter, hiss of the espresso machine. And there she was, Claire. Same woman from the fireplace photo, but with eyes that looked like they hadn't really slept in days. She looked up, saw me, and in that first eye contact, I knew we were both standing in the wreckage of the same lie. We sat there for a good 30 seconds without saying a word. Just 2 people at a small table, hands around warm cups we weren't drinking, trying to remember how to breathe. Up close, she looked even more worn out. Not messy, not dramatic, just emptied. Claire spoke first, voice low and flat. "He said he was working late," she whispered. "Big project. Said I was overthinking things." I nodded once. She said it was girls' night, I answered. Later, she upgraded it to food poisoning. For a second, something like a laugh slipped out of her. Not funny, not light. Just that bitter little sound people make when the pain's too big. We just stared at each other. Different lives, different houses, same script. Both of us had done the same mental gymnastics. Don't be insecure. Don't be crazy. Trust your spouse. Turns out we weren't crazy at all. We were just the last two people in the room to realize we were being lied to. Right there at that table, without saying it out loud, we both admitted the same thing. We'd been blindsided. Claire took a deep breath, reached into her bag, and pulled out her phone. I want you to see what I've been looking at all day, she said. She opened her photos. There they were, screenshots of rideshare receipts. Same pickup point near our neighborhood. Same drop-off. Meridian Suites off Parkway Drive. One ride timestamp, 12:18 a.m., another at 1:52 a.m., then a hotel folio, room 37, 12:39 a.m., room service, champagne, strawberries, pasta for two. There's no way to romanticize that. You don't order strawberries and champagne at 1 a.m. for a work emergency. Then she opened the messages. Nothing overly graphic. Nothing you could hide behind as just jokes. When she leaves, I'll sneak out. He's probably asleep already. I love you. I love you too. I didn't yell. Didn't ask if she was sure it was Melissa. I recognized my wife's writing style like I'd recognize her walk from across a parking lot. Right there, with Claire's phone between us, I ran out of room for denial. Whatever hope I had that this was some huge misunderstanding died on that cafe table. After the screenshots, after the hotel receipts, we just sat there for a minute, letting it all sink in. I finally asked, "So what do you want to do, Claire?" She stared at her coffee, then at me. "I don't want to scream," she said. "I don't want to throw things. That's what they'd expect." She took a breath. "I want him to hear the test results," she said. "Out loud, in front of someone he can't lie to. I want the truth in the room with us where it can't be twisted." I nodded. There was something solid in that. Not petty, not dramatic, just clear. "Not alone anymore," I said. "If you're ready to do this, we do it together." We picked a time that night. My house, my kitchen, the same place Melissa had stumbled in, sick. We weren't planning payback. We weren't plotting some movie scene revenge. We were just two people who'd had enough of being lied to, finally deciding to drag the truth into the light. When I stood up to leave, we didn't hug. We didn't make promises. We just nodded. We both knew what we'd signed up for. The drive home felt longer than it ever had, even though I'd done that route 1,000 times. Portland rolled by outside the windshield brick buildings, gas stations, familiar exits. But it all felt a little unreal, like I was watching someone else's life. The radio was on at first, some dumb afternoon talk show. They were arguing about football and traffic like the world was normal. I shut it off. I didn't need background noise. My head was loud enough. My hands were shaking on the wheel, but my mind was surprisingly clear. I kept thinking one sentence over and over. Respect is everything. Not love, not passion, not history. Respect. You can't build a safe home on top of someone looking you in the face and lying. I flipped my phone face down on the passenger seat. No music, no scrolling, no last-minute second-guessing. I wasn't driving home to explode. I wasn't going to put on a show. I was driving home to finally stop pretending. For the first time since this whole thing started, I knew exactly what I had to do. Stay calm. Be clear. Let the truth do the damage it needed to do. By the time I pulled into the driveway, the sun was slipping down and the house looked exactly like it always did. That almost hurt the most. When I walked in, Melissa was at the stove, stirring a pot of chicken soup. Her "I'm soft and fragile" special. She glanced over her shoulder with that tired little smile. "I'm feeling better," she said. "Urgent care thinks it was just something I ate." I leaned against the counter, keeping some distance. "Yeah," I said, flat. "Something you ate." Her eyes flicked up at me, searching my face, then slid sideways toward her phone on the counter. Screen dark, face down, sitting between us like another person in the room. The whole house felt wrong. Too tidy. Too quiet. Like we were actors in a play we'd both forgotten the lines to. The soup simmered. The spoon clinked against the pot. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a lawnmower droned. Inside my chest, everything was tight and still. Then the doorbell rang. Just one sharp, clean sound cutting straight through the fake calm. Melissa froze. The ladle stopped mid-stir. Her knuckles went white around the handle. She didn't have to ask who it was. Her face already knew. I didn't look at Melissa, didn't say, "I'll get it." We both knew I would. I walked down the hallway, every step feeling heavier than it should, and opened the front door. Claire stood there, same woman from the coffee shop, same tired eyes, but now there was something harder underneath. Not anger exactly, just a kind of steel. In her hand was a folded sheet of paper, the test results. "Evening," she said, voice steady. I stepped aside and let her in. She walked into my kitchen like she'd been there 100 times, stopped a few feet from Melissa. Melissa turned from the stove, and I watched the color drain out of her face. The ladle stayed suspended in the air, soup dripping back into the pot in slow motion. Nobody sat down. No one reached for a chair or a bar stool. We were all just standing there. 3 adults, 4 lives, 1 room with the truth folded between Claire's fingers. Without looking away from Melissa, Claire unfolded the paper. The sound of it opening felt louder than it should have. And in that breath, right before she started reading, we all knew. Whatever came next, there was no going back. Claire didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. She looked down at the page, then back up at Melissa, and started reading like she was delivering a verdict. Patient. Melissa Foster. Melissa flinched like she'd been slapped. "Stop," she whispered. "Please don't do this." Her hand came off the ladle and reached out like she could grab the words out of the air before they landed. I stepped between them, not to protect her from Claire, but to make sure she couldn't run. Her breathing went ragged behind me, short, broken gasps I'd never heard from her before. Claire's tone didn't change. "Screening panel indicates." Melissa's voice cracked. "Claire, please, we can talk about this, not like—" Claire cut right through her. Her eyes moved down the page. Then she spoke the word I'd already read alone in my office. Positive. Just that one word. It landed in the middle of my kitchen like a knife on tile. No more food poisoning. No more bad sushi. Positive for something that doesn't show up from dinner. And now it wasn't just on a PDF. It was out loud, in our home, in front of everyone who mattered. Claire kept going, calm as a surgeon. "Recent exposure," she read, her voice still steady. "Not food-related. Consistent with transmission through intimate contact." Every phrase was sharp, clinical, undeniable. Behind me, Melissa made this strangled sound, half sob, half gasp. "This is not what you think," she choked out. It has to be a mistake. Right then, her phone started buzzing on the table. The sound cut through her sentence like it was waiting for its cue. All 3 of us looked at it. The screen lit up, and for once the phone wasn't face down. A name flashed across the top. Dominic. No last name needed. I knew. Melissa lurched toward the table, hand shooting out. I moved faster. I stepped forward and set the toe of my boot on the edge of the phone, pinning it gently in place, not smashing it, just not letting her hide one more thing. The screen kept glowing between us, Dominic's name staring back at her like the final missing piece of a puzzle we'd already solved. Whatever doubt might have survived the test results died right there on my kitchen table, with his name lit up in bright white letters. Once Dominic's name lit up the screen, Melissa seemed to realize there was nowhere left to hide, but she still tried. Tears started pouring fast and ugly. "It was just once," she sobbed. "I was drunk, okay? He took advantage. I didn't even know what I was doing." Claire let out a short, humorless laugh. "Once," she repeated. "You sure about that? Because the hotel receipts say 4 different nights, same room, same pattern?" Melissa shook her head, hair sticking to her cheeks. "No, that's not... You don't understand. Our marriage was in a bad place. I felt lonely. I just watched her. No yelling, no throwing things, no calling her names. I'd spent years listening to her talk circles around smaller issues. I knew the rhythm of her excuses better than my own heartbeat. She kept reaching for more words, stacking them like sandbags against a flood that had already broken through the door. Finally, I'd heard enough. "Stop," I said. Just that. Firm. Final. The word hit harder than a scream. She froze mid-sentence like she'd run face-first into a wall she didn't see coming. She stared at me, eyes wide, mouth still half open around the excuse I'd just cut in half. I stepped a little closer, not aggressive, just done running from the truth. "You didn't accidentally end up in a hotel, Melissa," I said quietly. "You didn't trip and fall into his bed." Her lips trembled. "That wasn't a mistake," I went on. "That was a decision, and it wasn't just one." Melissa stumbled back a step like the words had weight. Behind her, the soup still simmered on the stove like some twisted background joke. Claire folded the test results and set them on the table right next to Melissa's buzzing phone. "You told him we were basically done," Claire said, voice low. "You told my husband I didn't care. We were planning an anniversary trip when you were sneaking into hotel rooms with him." There it was. No more talk about being drunk or taken advantage of or just once. Not a slip, not an accident, a series of choices. And when you call something a choice instead of a mistake, you can't hide behind it anymore. For a second, nobody said anything. Just the soft bubbling of soup and the sound of Melissa trying to catch her breath. She wiped at her face, mascara streaked, hand shaking. "I didn't want to lose you," she whispered. "Cameron, I swear I never meant for it to go this far. I was lonely. I was confused. I shook my head. "No," I said quietly. "You didn't lose me because you were lonely." She blinked, confused. I held her eyes. "You lost me the night you walked into this house pretending you were sick," I said. "You came home from a hotel bed and sold me a story about bad sushi." I motioned toward the table. "I've seen the receipts, the messages, the hotel charges. I know what this is." My voice stayed calm, colder than I expected. "I can live with the truth, Melissa," I told her. "I can't live with a performance." Her face crumpled in a different way then, not just from guilt, but from realizing there was nothing left to grab onto. No more script, no more sympathy to pull from me, just a mirror she finally had to look into. For a moment, the only one who seemed steady in that kitchen was Claire. She picked up the folded test results again, looked at Melissa, and there was no fire in her eyes. Just this tired, hollow ache I recognized all too well. "You know, this didn't just wreck his life," she said quietly. "It wrecked mine too." Melissa swallowed hard, eyes darting everywhere but Claire's face. Claire didn't let her off the hook. "I didn't do anything to you," she went on. "I built a home with him. I trusted him. And you walked into that without blinking." There it was, the exhaustion of a wife who'd run out of tears. For about 3 seconds, time felt like it stopped. No one spoke. No one moved. 3 people standing in a kitchen filled with the sound of something breaking you couldn't hear, only feel. Claire finally checked her watch, then looked at me instead of Melissa. "I'm done here," she said. No drama, no parting shot. She set the paper down on the table, walked past us, and let herself out. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Somehow that quiet little sound felt louder than any slam could have been. After Claire left, the house felt too big. Melissa sank into a chair like her legs finally gave out. For a second she just stared at the table. Then the words started pouring out. "We can fix this," she said, voice shaking. "Therapy, counseling. I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I'll change my number. I'll do anything, Cameron. Just don't give up on us." The promises came fast, like gunfire. Every sentence another shot in the dark. I didn't interrupt. I didn't argue. I just let her talk until she ran out of breath. In my head, each promise hit the floor like an empty shell casing. Loud for a second, then worthless, because none of it changed one simple fact. She'd already made her choices, over and over again. When her voice finally cracked and faded into sobs, I turned away from the table and opened the drawer where we kept important papers, passports, insurance, mortgage documents. I slid those aside and pulled out a blank folder. Then I set it down on the table between us. I didn't have to explain what it was for. The look on her face said she understood perfectly. We sat there in silence for a moment, the blank folder sitting between us like a line drawn in the sand. Melissa wiped at her face again. "Cameron, please," she whispered. "We can come back from this. People do. We have history. We have a home. I shook my head. "You're going to stay at your sister's tonight," I said. "Pack a bag. She'll take you in." Her eyes went wide, like I'd just told her the house was on fire. "What?" "No. This is our home. I'm your wife. Tomorrow," I continued, keeping my voice level, "we talk about separation. Then we talk to a lawyer." The word separation hit her harder than anything Claire had read. Her shoulders collapsed. Whatever fight she had left just drained out. I stood up, grabbed my keys from the hook by the door. My heart was pounding, but for the first time in a long time my head felt clear. She choked out, "Where are you going?" I looked at her, then at the house I'd worked my whole life to make safe. "Somewhere I can breathe," I said. Then I walked out and let the door close softly behind me, leaving all the stale air on the other side. When the door closed behind me, I stood on the porch for a second. Same house, same siding, same cracked step. But for the first time in months, I could breathe. No tension waiting behind me, no lies hanging in the air. Just me, the cold evening, and a phone that finally felt quiet. I texted Claire. "Thank you for coming, for helping me not feel crazy." She replied, "We did what we had to. It wasn't revenge, it wasn't victory. It was just the first moment of peace I'd had in a very long time." It didn't take long for the ripple to hit family. By the next day, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Her sister, my brother, her mom, a couple of people I hadn't heard from in months, suddenly very invested. Some had heard Melissa's version already. Some just felt something was wrong and wanted the inside scoop. They all had opinions. Marriages go through rough patches. You should at least try counseling first. Don't throw away 12 years over one mistake. Be the bigger person. I listened. I let them talk, but I didn't give them every detail. Didn't send screenshots. Didn't forward the PDF. Didn't drag the whole thing onto Facebook for people to choose sides like it was a game. Every time someone pushed, every time they tried to tell me what a good man would do, I came back to the same line. Respect is everything, I said. Once that's gone, it's not a marriage. It's just paperwork and memories. There's a kind of strength in not reacting the way people expect you to, in staying calm, keeping the dirty details off the internet, and quietly choosing your dignity over everyone else's comfort. It figured he'd reach out eventually. A couple of days after the kitchen blew up, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize, local area code. I picked up without thinking. "Cameron, it's Dominic," he said quickly. "Can we talk? It's not what you think, man." Funny how man shows up when a guy's in trouble. I stared at the screen for a second, then watched the bubbles pop back up. "We were both drunk. Things at home have been bad for a long time. I didn't mean to hurt you." There it was. The script. Blame the alcohol. Blame the marriage. Never the actual choices. I didn't rage text, didn't unload, didn't give him the fight he was secretly looking for. I typed one line. "We're done here." Then I took screenshots of the whole thread, saved them in the same folder as the test results and hotel receipts. Proof, not conversation. Finally, I went back to his contact, hit block caller, and locked the screen. He'd had more than enough access to my life already. He wasn't getting a stage 2. Claire and I kept our contact short and clean. No trauma bonding, no late-night oversharing. Just two people dealing with the same wreckage, trying not to drown in it. One afternoon she texted, "Got his results back. Same thing as Melissa. Same window." We got on a quick call. Her voice sounded tired, but steadier than in the coffee shop. She told me she'd moved out for now, taking the kids and staying at her mom's until lawyers and logistics caught up with reality. I told her Melissa was at her sister's, and I'd asked for separation papers to be drawn up. We compared notes, not out of obsession, but to make sure we weren't crazy. Timelines, excuses, nights they said they were working late. It all lined up too neatly. Claire gave me the name of a lawyer she trusted. I passed her the contact for mine. Before we hung up, there was a pause. "We'll get through it," she said. Maybe not clean, but we will. For once, I believed her. Not because I trusted people again, but because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't fighting this alone. Sooner or later, feelings have to meet paperwork. I sat across from a lawyer in a small downtown office. Old hardwood floors, shelves full of binders, the kind of place where lives get taken apart and rearranged on paper. We went through the basics. House, cars, retirement accounts. No kids, thank God. He asked for everything I had. I slid a flash drive across the desk, emails, the PDF from the clinic, screenshots, hotel receipts, text logs. Back this up in at least 2 places, he said. And from here on out, keep all communication calm and short. No long emotional messages, no threats, no late-night paragraphs. He advised me not to talk to Melissa or Dominic without thinking it through first. No more reacting, only responding if needed. We talked temporary separation, how to get my name clear on what mattered, how to keep things from turning into a war. At the end, he slid some papers over for me to sign. I read every line, then picked up the pen. As I signed, one thought settled in. I'm done living in confusion. I choose clarity. It didn't fix the hurt, but it gave it structure. The thing about guilt is it doesn't stay soft forever. At first, Melissa was all apologies and promises. But once lawyers got involved and the word separation stopped being theoretical, something in her flipped. One afternoon she called. No tears this time. Her voice had an edge. "So that's it?" she snapped. "You're just done? You're not even going to fight for us?" I let her talk. "People work through worse than this," she pressed. "You're just throwing everything away because your ego got hurt. What about the times you weren't perfect? What about all the nights you were at work?" I felt alone too, Cameron. There it was. The whataboutism, the shifting blame, the quiet attempt to drag me into a mud pit. I took a breath. "I did fight for us," I said calmly. "I fought by trusting you, by ignoring my gut for years, by giving you the benefit of the doubt every single time. I kept my tone flat, not cruel. You didn't lose me when you made a mistake," I added. "You lost me when you turned our life into a lie." She started to ramp up again, voice getting louder, reaching for any angle that might land. I cut in, same as in the kitchen. "Enough!" I wasn't playing that game anymore. At some point, curiosity stops being helpful, but I needed to know just enough to never doubt myself again. One night, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop, the same table where Claire had laid down those test results. I pulled up Melissa's shared work calendar, the one she'd stupidly left synced on the family laptop. Late project meeting. Team strategy session. Blocked out chunks of time that were supposed to be about deadlines and deliverables. Then I laid the hotel receipts next to it. Meridian Suites, room 307. Check-in, check-out times. Line by line, they matched up. Working late, in the calendar room charges and rideshare trips in the exact same windows. I printed the timeline and set the pages down in order, side by side with the receipts and screenshots. No captions, no red pen, no angry notes in the margins. I didn't need to add anything. The truth was speaking just fine on its own. After a long minute, I gathered everything, slid it into the folder the lawyer had given me, and closed it. I remember thinking as the cover clicked shut, I can't unsee this, and I'm not going to try anymore. I thought blocking his number was the end of it. Turns out when a man's cornered, he gets creative. He called from a different number one evening while I was at home alone. Local area code. I picked up without thinking. "Cameron, it's Dominic," he said quickly. "Just hear me out, man. I want to apologize. Man to man." Those 3 words hit a nerve. He started in with the script. "Things were bad at home. We were both in a weird place. We never meant for you to get hurt." I cut him off. "You want to do something man to man?" I said. "Then be a man with your wife first. Tell her the truth. Own what you did there before you come looking for absolution from me." He stumbled. It's complicated. She doesn't understand." And Melissa said, I'd heard enough. "You don't owe me a speech," I said. "You owe her honesty. That's where your courage belongs, not here." He tried to backpedal, but I was done. I hung up, saved the call log, sent the details to my lawyer, and blocked the new number. He'd already taken enough from my life. One thing he wasn't getting was the privilege of explaining himself to me. There's nothing dramatic about the end of a marriage. Sometimes it's just boxes. I folded Melissa's clothes, shoes, perfume bottles, things that used to mean our life. Now just items going into cardboard. Then I saw our wedding photo. For a moment I held it. Not because I missed her, but because I remembered how strongly I once believed in that picture. I set it in the box, closed the flaps, and taped it shut. The room didn't feel empty. It just felt honest. The past wasn't gone. It was simply in the right place, now sealed, labeled, and no longer running my life. A couple days later, Melissa showed up at the house. She stood on the front porch, hands stuffed into her jacket pockets like she was trying to hold herself together. "One last talk?" she asked. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." I thought about it. Then I stepped outside and pulled the door mostly shut behind me. 5 minutes, I said. That's it. She took a breath and went right back to the script. "We can fix this," she said. "People come back from worse. We have history. We have a home. We still love each other, don't we? If you just give me one more chance." I let her finish. Didn't argue point by point. Didn't defend myself. When she finally paused, I shook my head. "We can't fix what you kept breaking," I told her. "You didn't just make one bad choice. You built a whole secret life on top of ours." Her mouth opened like she wanted to push back, but nothing came out. The 5 minutes were up. I reached for the handle, met her eyes one last time, then said quietly, "Take care of yourself, Melissa." And I closed the door. Not slammed, just shut. Soft. Final. Enough. A few weeks later, the email from my lawyer came through. Subject line: Draft separation agreement. Please review. No drama, no fireworks, just a PDF holding the shape of the rest of my life. I sat at the kitchen table, the same one where the truth had landed, and opened it. Page after page of what used to be ours turned into columns and percentages and signatures. I read every line. House, retirement, vehicles. Who keeps what? Who pays what? My hands didn't shake this time. It didn't feel good, but it felt clean, like finally organizing a room that had been a mess for years. At the end, there was a blank space waiting for my name. I picked up the pen, took one slow breath, and wrote it out. Cameron Foster. As the tip of the pen dug into the paper, something in my chest clicked into place, but then I stopped. I set the pen down and stared at that signature for a long moment. Outside, the afternoon light was fading. The house was quiet. Too quiet. And that's when it hit me, the weight of what I'd just done. Not regret, exactly, but something heavier. I'd signed away 12 years. 12 years of trust, of routines, of mornings and bedtimes and small moments I'd never get back. I thought I'd feel free. I thought I'd feel relieved. Instead, I just felt empty. I looked around the kitchen, the same kitchen where Melissa used to make coffee every morning, the same table where we'd eaten 1,000 dinners, the same walls that used to hold laughter. Now it was just walls, just a table, just a house. I picked up my phone and scrolled through old photos. Her smile at the beach, us at my brother's wedding, Ranger between us on the couch, both of us laughing at something stupid. When did it all go wrong? Was there a moment I could have stopped it? A conversation I should have had? A sign I should have seen? Or was it always going to end like this? Two people who loved each other once, now reduced to legal documents and divided assets. I closed the photos and set the phone face down on the table. The signed papers sat in front of me, ready to be mailed. But I didn't move. I just sat there in the fading light, feeling the full weight of what freedom actually costs. If you've made it this far into my story, there's something I need to say straight to you, especially if you're a man who's been feeling that same gut twist I ignored for so long. A man needs peace under his own roof. Not perfection, not constant romance, just peace. A place where I love you and I'm home aren't competing with secret hotel rooms and hidden messages. You're not crazy for wanting honesty. You're not insecure because you notice patterns that don't add up. Your instincts are there for a reason. Respect is everything. Once that's gone, you don't have a marriage. You have shared bills, shared photos, and a shared lie. Trust, once broken and denied and spun into performances, doesn't come back just because someone cries hard enough. Here's what I wish someone had told me sooner. You're allowed to walk away from a situation that is slowly killing who you are. You don't have to burn your whole life down in rage. You just have to save what's left of you, your sanity, your dignity, your ability to look in the mirror and still recognize the man staring back. I didn't walk away from love. I walked away from a lie. Love is showing up, telling the truth, even when it hurts. What I had at the end wasn't love anymore. It was a performance I was expected to clap for. But here's the thing nobody tells you. Even when you make the right choice, it still hurts. Even when you choose truth over lies, dignity over chaos, peace over pretending, it still leaves a hole. I sit in this house now, and some nights it's so quiet I can hear my own heartbeat. And in that quiet, I ask myself, did I do the right thing? Most days I think yes. Some days I'm not so sure. What I do know is this. I couldn't keep living a lie, and neither can you. If you've listened all the way to this point, and your gut has been whispering while I talk, don't ignore it like I did. Don't explode. Don't go nuclear. Keep your head. Gather facts. Protect yourself. A man can be calm and still be strong. You deserve peace under your own roof. Thanks for listening. Hit subscribe if you want to hear what comes next. The court dates. The fallout. What happened with Claire and her kids? Because this story isn't over yet.